Udo, Udasa Nishadas, Manda Kamnakani, Little the single to we get the way the guy will be no book. I want to acknowledge the sacred items, our Eagle staffs, wagons, all the items that are so sacred to our people, as well as say Chimigwech to our host community, Muncie Delaware Nation, Chief and Council, and citizens of this nation for hosting this Grand Council. As well, welcome all of our elders, our youth, our women, our leaders, and all our participants. The theme of this year's assembly is Our Time Is Now. But maybe it needs an extra little line on it that says it's a little extra line to that theme, Our Time Is Now or Else. We've been through this before, meeting and talking about the important factors that impact our communities and find the best way forward together by passing resolutions and doing more talking. But now the more things change, the more they seem the same. And we're still at the mercy of government institutions, and they still hold our programs and our communities hostage by controlling the dollars. But there are differences now than in years past. For one thing, we're dealing with a very hostile federal majority government that has a racist agenda. One has to remember they are the old Reform Alliance Party that believes that Anishinaabe have no rights. And they're determined to eliminate our treaty rights and absolve themselves from their own obligations as our treaty partners. You know, I've often used this analogy. In the United States, they use the cavalry to go and decimate and wipe out the Anishinaabe there. I don't know whether it's more inhumane that they're killing us with thousands of little cuts. Slowly killing us with little cuts by using policy and legislation to do an end run around our rights. On the other hand, we've advanced the development of our own constitution and laws to a point where they're ready for implementation. Mining, pipelines, nuclear waste is leading the way for the reasoning behind the legislation and the policies at both levels of government. And it's no secret they do not see First Nations as being an important part of the economy. They see us as being in the way. And that's why they're fast-tracking things like the Omnibus Bill to get around, using these legislative tactics to get around the obligations and the rights that we have. You know, they talk about they say they're consulting us, but just look at the recent Ontario lottery gaming process when they're designating the zones where they were going to establish new gaming facilities. First Nations were not even in the equation, not even consulted or considered. When one of our First Nations made a representation to them, in fact, it was this First Nation, made a representation to them and said, well, the zones were already set. That's the way it is, sorry. That's just the way things are going to be. And they said that the economy was the guiding factor of why they chose those particular zones. So it's up to us. It's never been more clear, and the lines have never been drawn so deeply, with the exception of maybe war and colonization times of the 17 and 1800s. Every year, in every assembly, there are examples of various government levels infringing on our territories and chipping away at our fundamental rights as Anishinaabe people. the province passed the Tobacco Act and are manipulating the public into believing that this has to do with a healthier Ontario. Meanwhile, the true motive is money. Tobacco is a major revenue generator, and First Nations have found an economic driver that the province is not getting a piece of. For them, it's business. For us, it's contraband and illegal, they're saying, although tobacco is not illegal. And maybe we all have concerns, yes, as well, about the health of our citizens. But when you're backed into a corner and smoke shacks become the only economic driver in our communities that create employment, and they're trying to take that away, this does become a problem. And they're back to their same old business. How we fought a few years ago about the HST, they're trying to impose taxation on us again. And they're even going after businesses now. You know, any business that generates, any kind of substantial revenue, they're going after them. You know, saying that they're not paying the GST and that type of thing. And they're looking at, again, First Nations seizing of this so-called contraband. The federal agenda is well known, and their legislation has been analyzed, reported, and opposed, yet they continue forward. They have no shame, as you can see by the recent scandals. They find every excuse to just move on, move ahead, because they have that majority. And they ignore the thousands of emails that Chief Shining Turtle send them on MRP. I spoke to the minister about it again just a few days ago. Matrimonial real property. He didn't really have too much to say about the issue. But we know what the answer is. The answer is to put our own laws in place, to occupy the field. We can't look to them for any solutions. And both levels of these governments are salivating over things like the Ring of Fire and pipeline extensions on our land. And we're an afterthought. You know, the government's thinking on it is, we'll give these folks some jobs, that'll keep them quiet. So which one of our people is going to be sweeping the shop room floor while some international company is taking zillions of dollars out of our territory? So we can look at any one of these things that's going on in terms of legislation and policy, but it all comes back to this question of jurisdiction. But stating we have jurisdiction is not enough, or even in having the right to jurisdiction is not enough. We have to take a page out of Harper's book ourselves and just push our way through and deal with the criticisms after our laws are implemented. We need to occupy the field. You've heard me say that many times. We've put ourselves in a position now by passing Chinoknagewin a year ago that we have that lawmaking authority. We want to further strengthen it big time by finalizing the constitutions at the First Nation level, so that's where the real strength will be. So it's time to move forward and begin to implement. You heard me say at one of the assemblies, we had the inspiration. We did the inspiration to come up with the idea, then we did the perspiration to develop the templates. Now it's time for the implementation. So we don't look at the past to move forward. We look at the past to see where we've been so we don't repeat the same mistakes. But doing nothing while the government forces their laws on us would be repetition of the same mistakes we've made in the past. So progress is not where you've been, but where you're going. In the future, our kids will look at our time as the past. They'll either look at our time as having made progress, or we can be blamed for the lack of progress. when you see things like the Idle No More demanding change, they're obviously taking a very good look at what is going on in the political landscape today. We're too aware of what's going on to claim that we're victims of this anymore. We have to move beyond thinking of ourselves as victims and think of ourselves as Anishinaabe, as Anishinaabeg nations, taking our rightful place here on our land. We're the landlords in these territories. It's about time we start acting like it. I know we're still in the Indian Act system, and we still don't have any control over the funding for essential services. But if we start thinking like we are the rightful landowners and not victims, we can move out of that system on our terms and not the terms of our so-called tenants. So it's time to assert our jurisdiction. With our own laws, we have the tools necessary to get started. This is our time. If we don't act now, mark my words, we'll be scrambling around and jumping through the provincial and federal hoops on our own land. The Federal Education Act will be introduced. The federal MRP law will force us into provincial courts for domestic land disputes on reserve, and our children will continue to be scooped up by the Children's Aid Society. We can stop all those things from happening, and we can stop it now. One of our First Nations, Mississaugas of Scugog, is in a terrible situation in terms of the fact that this is the year, 2013, that the demographic study that the Ogimowash Tribal Council undertook means that this is the year they have no one left to be registered as a status Indian. And it's going to happen to every community, including the largest First Nation in Canada, Six Nations, by 2084. Another tactic. British North America Act says Indians and lands reserved for Indians. Eliminate the Indians. Another way to steal the land. We must determine our own citizens and override the government system of dictating who our citizens are. We have the mechanism in place. We developed a citizenship law. Are we just going to leave it there on the shelf or continue to talk about it? We need to implement this thing. We cannot afford to lose another Anishinaabe. The next Anishinaabe we lose is going to be your cousin. It's going to be your grandchild. It's going to be your nephew, your niece. We can't let that happen. It's doable. We implemented our own matrimonial real property law in my First Nation back in '91, and it's been operating fine. We got out of the Indian Act electoral system back then as well in '92. And we've never had an appeal since. Every election before that, there was an appeal every election. And we didn't have this business where we've seen a number of our communities faced without leadership because of some Indian Act problem with appointing an electoral officer or some other situation arising because it was somebody else's system. So every community has the power and the model to develop their own MRP laws or use the template that's already been developed. They're both fair and equitable. At the same time, it eliminates the legal vacuum where provincial courts would otherwise assume jurisdiction. On the economic front, we can sit back and wait for the government to offer us scraps from our own resources while they get rich from licensing fees, taxation, hunting and fishing fees. We can put our own processes in place to assume our rightful place of jurisdiction. I was just commenting the other day. They harass our people out there on the land for hunting, for setting up a camp, for doing what people have been doing for centuries. But the real agenda is they bring in the hunters that pay a licensing fee, buy gas and pay the taxation on it, buy the $1,800 gun pay the licensing on that and the taxation on that, the $1,200 scope with the tax they get off that, the boat that they buy, the four-wheel drive vehicle that they bring in, it's all part of their economy. They don't care whether you need some food for your family. That's what's going on out there. In education, they continue using oppressive policies to keep low-level employment sectors. You've heard me say this as well. Oppressive governments around the world keep citizens that they want to oppress uneducated and in poverty. Sound familiar? The residential school era continues in an academic framework. Just look at the kind of education they limit us to in residential schools: carpentry, sewing, domestic duties. When our students started fighting their way through the system and becoming doctors and lawyers, that's when the government took notice of First Nation education again. It was only in 1996 that the last residential school was closed down, and in the same year, and when post-secondary education was on the rise, they put a 2% cap on post-secondary education funds, and that's been in place since 1996. Well, it's time we implement our own laws and determine our own future. It's up to us how we want to be acknowledged in the future, as the generation that made progress, or that generation that just talked and talked and talked and talked about the need to make some progress. Before I close, I want to remind you not to underestimate the power of our youth. Do not dismiss their determination and the intelligence that they have. Our job is to clear the path. What we start today, the leaders of the future will finish tomorrow. You know, I wanted to just end by saying here, you know, it gets sometimes maddening, I guess is the only word, when we see what is happening to us by these two levels of government, and we say we're going to do something about it, and we only take it so far. I'll use that example last year when we said we're going to have a real serious economic day of action to tell this government, and particularly to tell industry, that they have to deal with First Nations. We turtled. Sorry to use that expression, shining turtle, but we turtled. And the government said, there they go again. We'll put up with them for a couple of hours of a little bit of interference or distraction. It's a small price to pay for stealing their land and their resources. You know, they'll once the weather gets cold, they'll back off for a while. Maybe we'll see some more again next summer. We're getting to be so predictable. And I can say one thing unequivocally here with no hesitation. If you're going to wait for any of these levels of government to do something for us, you're going to wait a hell of a long time. So it's up to us, chiefs and councils and citizens of our Anishinaabe Nation. The time is now. Chimigach.